6:38 p.m., Jason Scheer, Wildcat Authority, 247 covers Arizona. Business is picking up. And then a little bit later on, when he was talking about the amount of accidents from people driving here and there, had a little bit of time. Somebody asked Jason, what conference will U of A be in 2026, Big 12, if they don't check it out? Jason Scheer joins us, Wildcat Authority, 247 Arizona Sports on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Jason, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Has anything moved at all since the last time perhaps we talked with you about what the Pac-12 or teams, Arizona specifically, have learned?
Yeah, there's a lot of whispers going on right now, and I can't confirm the ESPN numbers have come back, but there's been a lot of activity in the Pac-12. I get the vibe that they have come back, and now it's kind of decision time and sitting down and really taking a look at those numbers. I wish I had the numbers because it would give me a much better understanding of what's going on. But business, like I said, business is back up, meaning like there's a lot of whispers behind the scenes of schools getting ready to act or at least sit down and take a very serious look at their situation.
So, Jason, I think that most people watching this are pretty in tune with what's going on in college athletics, and that's why they're watching this. But for those out there who just kind of loosely keep up with news because of jobs or families or whatever, there's the thought that the Pac-12, once USC and UCLA announced their decision, was just going to fizzle out and fall apart completely, or there's going to be departures to the Big 12 or whatever have you. But these negotiations basically are what is keeping it together at the moment, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the Pac-12 is going to do everything they can to stick together. The commission obviously wants the conference to stick together. Schools like Washington State and Oregon State clearly want the conference to stick together. Otherwise, they're pretty much left out, and they'll be in the Mountain West. But the other schools, it's a process. Like, you got to get numbers from the Big 12 and look at all your options and decide which one is more viable, which one has more stability, and do you give up a little money if one place has more stability than the other? It's not a simple process. I think a lot of people expected it, to happen within days, but it's just not like that. There's a lot of discussions with presidents, athletic directors, intermediaries, and all that. And so that's what's going on now. And if it was an easy decision or, if the numbers weren't so heavily involved, it would have been done already. But this is something that, these schools, the future of the athletic programs is at stake. So it's going to be a somewhat slower process.
As you know, Arizona and Arizona State are tied together because, they're very close, regionality, whatever. But are they really on the same page when it comes to the future, you think?
I haven't been able to get a clear answer about that. Every time I ask, it's kind of, we're going to do what's best for ourselves. My gut tells me that they are tied. I would be really surprised if Arizona moves without ASU or vice versa. It feels like Arizona's kind of driving the train a little bit, being a little more aggressive than ASU. But I would be really surprised if there's a scenario where they don't move together, because you got to think also, once a couple of these schools move in the Pac-12, let's say it's just Arizona and Colorado, and they decide to move, other schools have to follow. They'll have no choice. And even if ASU, wants to look around or kind of see the landscape or wait a bit, they really won't have that option. And so to me, these schools are pretty tied together. I'd be surprised if they broke up.
Jason, for those that don't live out in Arizona or maybe don't know that part of the country all that well, and I'm one of them, can you kind of explain the fandom out there? Because there's not like the school that's based in Phoenix, when they talk about TV markets and things like that. But there is two, big brands in Arizona and Arizona State. What is the fandom like? How is it spread out amongst the state of Arizona, in your opinion?
Well, it's really interesting because, Phoenix is about an hour and a half away from Tucson, and it has professional sports. You have the Diamondbacks, you have ASU, you have hockey, etc. And it's a big town in the sense that there's a lot of people from other states and other areas. So while ASU is a thing up there, it's not the number one option. In Tucson, it is all about U of A athletics. That's what the coverage is. That's what you have on your television. Huge deal. With ASU, it's definitely more football, but in terms of the overall passion of the fan base, I think it's a bit higher in Tucson, but obviously, Phoenix is a bigger market. It's just interesting because it's not like, you're you're adding Phoenix, but you're not adding like a super passionate ASU fan base just because it's a big city and there's so much going on.
If, in fact, Arizona was given the option and they were given an offer, would they be strong enough to do that on their own?
It's tough to say. I don't think so. I really don't. It's because football kind of rules, this decision-making process. And the reality is Arizona football hasn't been attractive in quite a while. It's not like ASU football is super attractive, but it's kind of a deal where, similar to like the Big Ten wanting USC and UCLA, you want those together to get the whole LA market. If you're the Big 12, you want those Arizona schools together. And that's why I think it'd be difficult for Arizona to move. Now, if ASU puts their foot down and says, we're not going anywhere, it could get really interesting, because I feel confident in saying that if it was solely up to the U of A and what they wanted to do with no outside forces, it would be the Big 12 all the way.
Jason, is that the case if it was Arizona connected to somebody else, or Arizona, like, for example, Utah or Arizona, Colorado? Does that matter?
No, I don't think I think Arizona and Colorado are probably the most, lockstep. And the thing is, like, Colorado has it well where they're not connected. Like, they can go on their own. Utah can pretty much go on their own. They're not connected, even though they came in at the same time. But with Arizona, what you're going to start seeing is, Arizona and ASU connected. Cal and Stanford probably connected. But then you got the Washington schools that aren't, and the Oregon schools that aren't. And so it comes down to, the numbers. If the Big 12 comes to Arizona and says, look, you can do this on your own. Like, you're not necessarily connected. We'll take you by yourself. Then so be it. And that's really what a lot of this is coming down to is, what is the Big 12? What is the Pac-12 willing to do in terms of, are these schools a package deal?
So are these Colorado Board of Regents meetings normally called at this rate, or is this something that's been new because of all the things that are swirling around right now?
No, they're new, and they are at a very fast rate. I mean, they're by far, like in Arizona, if they have a board meeting, you have to post it. You have to tell people that you're meeting. And so there hasn't been one in Arizona. That's not to say there haven't been discussions with Regents, but there hasn't been an official meeting. Colorado, they had like a Board of Regents retreat last week, and they called an executive meeting on the retreat. They called another one for Wednesday. I mean, and it keeps saying legal advice regarding the matter. And so they're clearly talking to outside counsel and keeping updated on everything. And they're taking this, I mean, you could make an argument they're taking it more seriously than anyone in the conference. But the pace of these meetings, especially during the summer, is something that I haven't seen, definitely not from Arizona, and really not from any other schools. I mean, we're talking 1 or 2 meetings a week in the last few weeks.
So, in the end, you were asked this question on Twitter. Where do you think Arizona will be in 2026?
I just don't see how the ESPN numbers that come back make it worth these Pac-12 schools saying. And that's what someone from Arizona, a source that I trust, has told me, that they would be shocked if the ESPN numbers or any numbers came back and were big enough to convince schools to stay. And so because of that, I think at the end of the day, these schools are going to do what's best for their school and their athletic department. And that's why I think Arizona winds up in the Big 12. I don't know if that's going to happen this week, this month, or whatever it would be, but I do think that as of now, assuming the outside forces don't get in the way and kind of screw everything up, that Arizona will be in the Big 12.
Yeah, it's interesting. I followed what you were saying yesterday. I know you've been in contact with others that we know as well, and glad today was a good day to get you on as well. Jason Scheer, 247 Sports in Arizona, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
As you know, Jason, the Big 12 plays a pretty good brand of basketball, and that's one of the things when you think about Arizona in that conference of what that could be like playing KU and Baylor and Tech and et cetera. But you mentioned it earlier, setting up a little matchup with the Blue Devils. How excited are Arizona Hoops fans about that?
Oh, they're pumped. I mean, they've been trying. This took months to put together. Coach K wouldn't do it when he was here, and John Scheer, to his credit, has said that he wants more home and homes. But it is a really, really big deal in this town since the national championship game in 2001, and any chance Arizona has to play Duke, they want it, and so fans are really, really excited about it.
Jason, how much is this keeping you I guess not alive, because my God, it's just sports or whatever, but how much has this been front and center with you at this particular time?
Yeah, I mean, July is usually a dead month.
I know.
You get the football, the football dead period. Basketball, maybe you get a few recruiting periods, but it's usually like you're kind of struggling. From my point of view, is like, what am I going to write and all that. But no, this has been a super busy July, and every time I leave the house, I get scared because it's like, all right, if I leave, as soon as I leave the house, something's going to happen. Or like yesterday, I was driving back from Vegas and get a call, and all of a sudden it's like, well, now I got to write a story when I get home, and it's just it's fun. I enjoy stuff like that, but it's definitely a different type of July that I'm used to because normally it's super quiet in July.
Yeah, welcome to our world. About a year ago, exactly, and it's happened before with the Big 12 3 times in many, many ways. If you were to piece together 4 schools, it seems like the ones that would make sense, and of course, Oregon and Washington have their whatever level. Do you see in any way Washington and Oregon going anywhere without the other?
That would surprise me. Now, if Phil Dyke and if Oregon could somehow convince one of these major conferences to let them in, which I don't think they can, then that changes things. But it would surprise me if those two aren't kind of bonded together. It's an interesting deal because I think Washington might actually be more attractive than Oregon. I don't think Oregon's as attractive as it thinks it is, and it's probably going to find out in the next round of negotiations why that is and how that is. But that's another 2 schools where, unless one of them is going to the Big Ten, which I don't think is going to happen, then my guess is that they're pretty locked in together.
I had somebody today who's in athletics administration tell me he thought that Washington and Stanford would make more sense to the Big Ten because of their academics.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that is, like I said, I don't think Oregon is as attractive as it thinks because of the academics and the overall footprint and all that. Stanford, at the end of the day, their football and basketball may not be great, but their Olympic sports are as good as it gets. And so, you're in academics, obviously. And so, Stanford is probably more attractive than people think, and Oregon's probably less attractive.
Thank you, Jason. The Twitter blowing up, our text will be blowing up with you as well. We can share some information together. Thanks for your time and insight.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Jason Scheer, 247 Sports in Arizona. You get the feeling he feels like